Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
We finally have ourselves some numbers for the WNBA expansion draft. Now, not really a whole lot of surprises. It looks like it's going to be exactly what we talked about in terms of the number of protected players. It is going to be 5. But one thing that I found really, really important that I've been looking for and wanting to see, and no one's been talking about it, and I thought it was huge. We've got that as well. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate all of your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. We are climbing back. We are almost back to 14,800 subscribers. We actually ended the season with 14,896 before we dropped down to almost 14, under 14.7. We're climbing back. Thank you. I guess some of you are realizing you needed to subscribe again because YouTube's a pain, and some of you seem to be coming back, maybe checked out for the off season, which I completely understand. So thank you all that. To all of you. Shout out to the 19. So anyway, check this out because it's all happening fast now, right? Expansion draft is Friday, April 3rd. Portland Fire, Toronto Tempo. I got to admit, I kind of dig the names. They sound more like soccer teams, actually, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Good names. I like it. It flows, especially Toronto Tempo. So anyway, coin toss, March 27th. So that's what, tomorrow? Next day, tomorrow, right? Determine who's going to choose first. Whoever picks second gets the 6th pick in the draft, and the team that picks first gets the 7th pick. So 2 rounds, 12 selections total, 6 per team. Now, here is where it gets interesting, okay? So by March 29th, teams may designate, they have to submit their list. And that includes the status of all the players, restricted, unrestricted, under contract for however many years, core, the whole thing, because they can, like Kelsey Mitchell can be, for those who don't know, Kelsey Mitchell can be cored. That's why we talked about, and I had mentioned about the possibility of maybe trading or like maybe, and I mean that, I don't want to go into that whole thing because that was another video, but if they have decided maybe already, there's no way they can keep all 3 next year and round out the roster with enough good players, they can core Kelsey Mitchell and try and trade her before the end of the season or even at the beginning of this season to at least get something as opposed to just letting her walk in free agency next year simply because they can't afford to sign her, not because they don't want her, okay? That's the thing that's been getting twisted, I think, with a lot of people is Kelsey Mitchell's a heck of a player. It's not about, it's just with the new cap, if they can only keep 2 of the 3, I think they're better off keeping Caitlin and Aaliyah. Anyway, so here's where it gets interesting for me, what I wanted to know about. Expansion teams may select only 1 potential unrestricted free agent each, even if the player can no longer be designated as a core player. Selecting such a player gives the expansion team exclusive rights to negotiate a super max contract. Now, if I am reading this correctly, that's where I talked about the number of free agents, okay? So they can select 1 unrestricted free agent from a team that then has to play for that expansion team. But here's the key, and this is what I was looking for because I talked about the fairness. If I'm reading this right, to negotiate, that means they're only, Toronto, Portland, are only going to select an unrestricted free agent if they think that player is worth a supermax. That's how I read that. If you're not going to give them a supermax, you don't select them or you can't select them. It's either supermax or bust, which completely changes everything about that. But then the one thing I'm curious about, and I didn't run the numbers, but just kind of off the top of my head, the way it feels, right? Other than the players on rookie contracts, you have an entire league of free agents. But they can only select 1 free agent. You see where I'm going with this? Right? Only 1 free agent. So so I'm reading the rounds of picks again. That's not making sense to me. But so if that's the case, it almost sounds like overseas players are going to be coming in. That's why I'm looking at the draft again. I mean, am I having a brain freeze that has I not had enough Caffeine, yeah, the expansion draft consists of 2 rounds with each team allowed up to 12 selections total. Okay, each team allowed up to 12 selections total, but then it says 6 per team. Well, if it's each team allowed up to 12 selections total, that would be 12 per team, right? Am I missing something? Is that not okay? But anyway, so now we have the free agency thing cleared up. So unless teams are willing to overpay, a lot of the players that we thought might be gone via expansion draft may very well not be gone. For example, Sophie Cunningham. Everyone now, it doesn't mean she's guaranteed to come back to the Fever. They got to work out a contract. Who knows what she'll get elsewhere and all of that. Although I think she's leaning to coming back. You look at what Caitlin Clark has done for her in terms of endorsements and so forth. That, you know, if she could get, and I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not even saying she's worth this or it's going to get offered, but let's say she could get 800 somewhere else, and the Fever can only offer, 675 or 700. But then you factor in her once again playing with Caitlin Clark, and maybe an entire season as opposed to Caitlin only playing 13 games. And you look at the endorsement stuff, which obviously Sophie's very good at. She deserves endorsements as she gets, but she obviously got a whole lot more exposure and opportunities with Caitlin Clark. That might be worth 100, 150 grand plus in order to stay with the Indiana Fever if she's going to have a big role. And so leaving her unprotected, if I am understanding this correctly, if I'm not, let me know in the comments, but it sure sounds like one unrestricted free agent can be selected, but you've got to give them the supermax. Well, if that's the case, unless they've got a lot of cap room because they're going to go with drafts and young players to, you're not going to select Sophie Cunningham, right? In fact, I don't think a whole lot of free agents are going to be selected. So leaving her unprotected doesn't seem like nearly as much of a big deal as it would otherwise, because I don't think that Portland or Toronto is going to give Sophie Cunningham a super max contract, right? Not going to give Sophie Cunningham $1.4 million. So that being said, rattling off my 5 for the Indiana Fever that I believe they will and should protect. Obviously, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, they're under contract. Lexi Hall, restricted free agent, so they can match, right? If they really want to keep Lexi Hall, they can figure it out. Unless someone goes crazy and offers Lexi Hall a supermax somewhere, that's a problem. But it makes sense if Lexi Hall is in their plans, right? If they've already decided, they've worked out all the numbers, they've checked things out, and they're like, yeah, you know what? We're going to make it work with Lexi Hall. Obviously, you protect her. And you protect Michaela Timpson because, one, I think she's young. She's got a ton of potential. I really, fingers crossed, hope to see her play a lot more this season. Obviously, she's lower on the salary cap as well. So that frees up money for other players. And then Kelsey Mitchell would be my 5th, because Kelsey Mitchell, again, unless I've gone completely brain dead and haven't gotten enough caffeine into my veins yet, you can core her this season. Now, that's a lot of money, which again also leads to another reason to keep Timpson, because you got to find that money elsewhere to fill out the roster. But so you can core Kelsey Mitchell for one more season. So Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hall, Michaela Timpson. Figure it out from there. Now, if they are coring Kelsey, it's a supermax, I believe, right? 1.4. Caitlin Clark's getting to get 530. Aaliyah Boston qualifies for the max as well. So that'll get interesting. Now, so that means, I don't know if they'll still be able to sign Sophie Cunningham, but it looks a lot more likely that they're not going to lose her to the expansion draft. So anyway, there you go. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hall, Michaela Timpson, and we build from there. We'll see how much cap space is left. Because again, I don't think the core designation has changed in terms of the type of contract they get. I don't think. And of course, they could also maybe work it out to sign Kelsey Mitchell for less. Maybe they figure out that they can have her in the plans by signing her to a multi-year deal. She's getting up there in age. She might only have one multi-year contract left for big money. Sign that, less than what she gets per year, frees up a little more room with the cap and all that. You know the drill. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below. What do you think about those 5? Who would you switch out and keep instead? And do you want to try and get Sophie Cunningham back? And what would be your limit, right? That's a big part of it, too. Obviously, the money matters because you got a cap to work with. Let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, subscribe. Really do appreciate it. Shout out to the 19. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.